Welcome back to Bull Battle, where we don't just talk about money, we talk about power. And today, we're going to pull back a curtain that very few people in the world want you to see. Stay until the end of this video, because what I'm about to show you will change how you see every single purchase you make, every stock you consider buying, and every news headline you read. I'm serious. Let's go. Imagine I told you there was a family, a very quiet, very polite family, who owned a piece of your local bank, and your grocery chain, and the company that makes your medicine, and the platform you're watching this video on right now. You'd probably say, that's impossible. That's conspiracy talk. But here's the thing. It's not a family. It's not a secret society. It's not a shadowy cabal meeting in a castle somewhere. It's two investment firms. Their names are BlackRock and Vanguard. And together, through something called index fund investing, they have quietly become the largest shareholders in an almost incomprehensible number of the world's biggest corporations. Not majority owners, not controlling owners in the traditional sense, but large enough, consistently across thousands of companies, that the effect is the same. Let me explain exactly how this happened, because the story is not evil. It's almost beautiful in its simplicity, and that's what makes it so unsettling. Go back to the 1970s. A man named John Bogle had an idea. He looked at Wall Street, all these fund managers charging high fees, promising to beat the market, and he noticed something uncomfortable. Most of them couldn't. Year after year, the average actively managed fund underperformed the market, and yet they were charging investors a fortune in fees for the privilege of losing their money. So Bogle asked a simple question. What if we stopped trying to beat the market and just tracked it? What if instead of picking winners, we just bought a tiny piece of every company in the S&P 500, proportional to their size, and let the market do the work? He called it an index fund, and it was revolutionary. Low fees, low effort, and over time, it consistently beat the professionals. Bogle founded Vanguard to sell this idea to ordinary investors. Decades later, a firm called BlackRock took a similar approach and built it into something even bigger, including a system called iShares that made it even easier for anyone to invest in the entire market at once. Here's what nobody fully anticipated. When hundreds of millions of ordinary people put their retirement savings, their pension funds, their college savings into index funds, all that money floods into the same pool, and the managers of that pool, Vanguard and BlackRock, end up holding giant stakes in virtually every major company in the world, not because they plotted it, but because the math of passive investing made it inevitable. Let me give you some numbers. Just sit with these for a moment. BlackRock manages over $10 trillion in assets. Vanguard manages over $8 trillion. Together, that's more than $18 trillion. To give you perspective, the entire GDP of China is roughly $18 trillion. The GDP of the United States, the largest economy in human history, is about $27 trillion. These two firms together manage wealth equivalent to a significant fraction of America's entire economic output. Now here's where it gets really interesting. BlackRock and Vanguard are consistently among the top 3 shareholders in Apple, in Microsoft, in Google, in Amazon, in Tesla, in JP Morgan Chase, in ExxonMobil, in Pfizer, in Johnson & Johnson. Pick almost any company in the S&P 500, the 500 largest publicly listed American companies, and you will find BlackRock and Vanguard sitting near the top of the shareholder list. But it doesn't stop at America. They hold massive positions in major European banks, in Asian manufacturing giants, in energy companies, in media conglomerates. And here is the detail that almost nobody talks about. BlackRock and Vanguard own large stakes in each other. They are not separate forces. They are interlocked. Two giants holding hands at the very top of the global financial system. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, but owning shares doesn't mean you control the company, right? Shareholders don't run the day-to-day business. And that's partially true. You're right that BlackRock and Vanguard are not calling Apple's CEO every morning and telling him what to do. But here's what owning large blocks of shares does give you. Voting rights. When companies hold their annual general meetings, when they vote on board members, on executive pay, on major corporate policies, shareholders get a vote. And if you own billions of dollars of a company's shares, your vote carries enormous weight. BlackRock has a team of hundreds of people whose entire job is to vote in shareholder meetings around the world. They call it stewardship. And through that stewardship, they help decide who sits on corporate boards, how CEOs get paid, and what policies companies adopt. This is not speculation. This is public record. In 2021, an activist hedge fund called Engine No. 1, tiny compared to BlackRock, managed to get 3 new board members elected at ExxonMobil, specifically to push for climate-related changes. How? Because BlackRock voted with them. One investment firm, voting its shares, changed the direction of one of the world's largest oil companies. Now imagine that power applied to hundreds of companies simultaneously. every year, in every sector. That is what BlackRock and Vanguard actually do. Let's walk through your daily life and trace the fingerprints. You wake up and check your phone, Apple or Samsung. BlackRock and Vanguard are top shareholders in both. You watch the news. Whether it's on CNN, Fox News, NBC, the parent companies of all of these have BlackRock and/or Vanguard among their largest investors. You go to the pharmacy, CVS, Walgreens, same story. You eat breakfast. The food companies, Nestle, Unilever, Kraft Heinz, all have massive index fund ownership baked in. You fill up your car with petrol. ExxonMobil, BP, Chevron. BlackRock is a top shareholder in all of them. You pay with your Visa or MasterCard. Both companies, same shareholders at the top. You go to the supermarket, Walmart, Tesco, Carrefour. Yes. And at the end of the day, you deposit money in your bank. JP Morgan, Bank of America, HSBC. BlackRock and Vanguard sit at the shareholder table there too. Now here's a question I want you to sit with. When the top shareholders of your bank, your pharmacy, your food company, your media company, and your energy company are all the same two firms, does that create a conflict of interest? Can a shareholder who profits from fossil fuel companies also genuinely push those same companies to go green? Can a firm that profits from pharmaceutical companies also push for lower drug prices? These are not conspiracy questions. These are real governance questions that academics, economists, and regulators are actively debating right now. Now, I want to be honest with you, because this channel is about understanding the system, not just being outraged by it. There are real, serious arguments for what BlackRock and Vanguard do. First, they democratized investing. Before index funds, ordinary people had almost no access to diversified, low-cost investment. Pensions were poorly managed, fees were high, and the average person lost money to Wall Street. Index funds changed that. Hundreds of millions of ordinary people now have retirement savings that grow with the economy. That is genuinely good. Second, passive investors don't make aggressive, short-term corporate decisions. Unlike hedge funds that push companies to cut costs, fire workers, and boost quarterly profits, index funds tend to be long-term, stable holders. Many governance experts argue this is better for companies. Third, the firms themselves say they don't interfere in competitive business decisions. They vote on governance matters, board composition, executive pay, but not on product pricing or market strategy. These are fair points. The system was not built by villains. It was built by people trying to make investing fairer and more efficient. But, and this is the crucial but, the scale has now reached a point that nobody planned for, and scale changes everything. So, what does all of this mean for you? Sitting at home, paying your bills, trying to understand the world. Here's what I want you to take away. First, the world economy is not as competitive as it looks on the surface. The brands are different, the logos are different, but the investors behind them often are not. When you understand this, a lot of things, like why prices across entire industries move together, or why corporations all seem to adopt the same policies at the same time, start to make more sense. Second, your pension fund, your mutual fund, your retirement savings, if they're in index funds, you are part of this system. You are one of hundreds of millions of ordinary people whose pooled money has created this situation. That doesn't make you responsible, but it means the system is connected to you. Third, this is not illegal. It is not hidden. The shareholder filings are publicly available. Anyone can look them up. The power is hiding in plain sight, in forms that most people never look at. Fourth, regulators are paying attention. The EU has proposed new rules. The US Federal Trade Commission has started investigating common ownership. Change may be coming, but slowly. And fifth, knowledge is the beginning of power. You cannot push back against a system you don't understand. And now, you understand it a little better than you did 15 minutes ago. The next time you hear a news anchor talking about the stock market, remember that the channel they work for and the fund behind the stock market are probably owned by the same two firms. The next time you see two airlines or two banks or two food companies in a price war, ask yourself who their shareholders are. The next time a corporation announces a major policy shift, ask who voted for that at the shareholder meeting. The world is not run by the people you see on the news. It is run, in part, by patient, quiet, enormously wealthy institutions that most people have never thought about. BlackRock, Vanguard, two companies, trillions of dollars, sitting at the top of a web that touches almost everything. Now you know. If this video made you think, share it with one person. Just one. Because this is the kind of knowledge that gets buried under viral nonsense, and nobody wants you to have it. Subscribe to Bull Battle if you want to keep understanding how power and money actually work, not how we're told they work. Drop your questions in the comments. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next battle. Stay sharp.